Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Kat. I'm also known as Delilah Shines, and you can check my channel out below. I'll post the link in the description, and if you're interested in seeing more of me, then you can head over there and subscribe, and you'll see many videos I post frequently, and I'll be posting more frequently as I am able to. So today I'm going to be talking about parenting while on your spiritual path. Yay! I love talking about this because, as you may know, or as you may not know, I am a mother of 3. Whoa, I know. Most people cannot believe it when I tell them that, because by looking at me, you can probably tell that I am pretty young. Now, I've talked about this before, and if you go over to my channel, I recently uploaded a video called Expectations, and there, I talk a little bit more about my, parenting journey. And when I started out as a teen mother of not just one child, but of 2. And later on, very recently in my life, I've had my 3rd beautiful child. Now, one thing that I have realized while on my spiritual journey is that there's not very many outlets where people talk about, specifically parenting on a spiritual journey. And maybe they are. If there are, please comment below. Let me know, because I would love to also check, other people's opinions out and what they're saying about it. But for me, really, I can only talk based on of my own experiences. And so a lot of my spiritual journey, in the beginning, I was struggling to find, some type of outlet, somebody who understood or somebody who spoke about parenting while on your spiritual journey. And so that's kind of why I want to share these experiences with you guys, because I want to be that outlet for many of you who maybe are in the same situation. So first off, what does it mean to be a good parent in general, not just on your spiritual journey, but what does it mean to be a good parent? What does it mean to be a parent? For me, I've found that being a parent does not mean you have to be a certain age. You do not have to look a certain type of way. You don't have to dress a certain type of way. And you don't have to have a certain amount of money. These are all things that society has kind of shaped us to be, okay? They've kind of, gave us the impression that if we're going to be parents, that we need to be perfect in some type of way. We need to be ready first, and be quite frank about it. Many of us do not prepare before we become parents. Many of us are not even aware that we're going to be parents, and then we find out that we're pregnant or our partner's pregnant, okay? So, in reality, when you become a parent, it is because you chose that, okay? Whether you chose that before you came here, or maybe you chose that while you were here. I believe that I chose to be a parent, before I came here. I knew that that was part of my mission, to work with the children, and I've been doing that in many of my past lives. But I also know that I made that choice again while I was here, of course, because we do have free will and the ability to make choices. So I chose to be a mom, and so far a mother of 3. Now, I don't plan on having any more children, but I didn't plan to have any of the children that I do have. So what I've found about being a good parent is that there's no manual, there's no set way. And because all of us and all of our children alike, they are individuals, so they need different things, okay? So the way that you parent your child is going to be very different than the way that I parent my child. But I believe that we do have a base and a foundation that can be very similar, okay? And those teachings of, peace, love, inner happiness, wisdom, seeking knowledge, okay? Those are all very important. I think that every parent wants to install their children with those things, okay? So being a good parent, like I said, it has nothing to do with your money. It has nothing to do with all of these materialistic, things that we feel that we need to have in order to be a parent, okay? So for me, at first when I, had my awakening, I felt like it was really difficult because, in the beginning, I was under the impression that I had to be really, really positive and I had to be, spending a lot of time alone and trying to figure myself out, okay? Find myself. Who am I on my spiritual path? And of course, I do believe that all of that is really important. However, it's not always easy, okay? Especially because, at the time when I only had my 2 children and I was, in the beginning of my awakening process, I had nobody. Okay, I didn't have family to help me. I didn't have friends to help me. I felt very alone, especially, being a teen mom. In society, we kind of, look at that as such a bad thing. So in the specific situation that I was in, a lot of people were looking down on me and treating me as if I had done something so wrong. And I've even had people tell me, like, oh, well, you chose to get pregnant and have a baby, so you're on your own. And really, I truly believe that it takes a community to raise a child, okay? All of us need to come together and raise each other's children, okay? So that's another thing that is really important to realize and accept, that you do not have to do this alone. And even if you are currently in a situation where you are doing everything basically alone, that is okay. There are people out there who can help you, and I am here to be one of those people. And even if I can't help you financially or in some type of way like that, I am here in the cyber world, okay? And I do exist, obviously. So if you guys, are interested in getting to know me on a personal level, feel free to reach out to me. But for me, I was, feeling very alone at the time. And I knew that I wanted to meditate more. I knew that I wanted to, travel. That was one big thing that my heart was calling to do. And I knew that I had passions that I hadn't really been, diving into. I hadn't really been expressing myself creatively like I had wanted to. And when I realized this, I also realized that I was making a lot of excuses in my head about why I couldn't meditate, okay? So I'd be like, oh, well, at the time I had like a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, okay? And I was just finding, or like a 1-year-old, maybe she was like 1 at the time, but I was finding it really difficult for some reason to be able to get alone time and meditate. Not just being a single mom, but just being a mom in general. You have all of these things to do, and then once your children are asleep, then you have to do everything that you couldn't do, like laundry or dishes or whatever, while they were awake, okay? So you have to do the things that you couldn't do when they were awake. And it can get overwhelming. So that's why I want to give you guys these tips. So first off, how I was able to meditate, I got really creative, okay? I would take my children to the park, and when they were on the swing or, running around on the play set, I would sit under a tree. Now, I know this isn't easy for everybody to just go out into public and to meditate, right? Especially when you're at something like a park and there's other parents there who are looking at you like, what the heck are you doing? So this is going to take a lot of courage, and it's also going to take a lot of just inner knowing and self-love, okay? Know that you are not only helping yourself by doing this, but you're also impacting people around you, okay? So they might look at you a little weird for meditating under a tree, but you'll also get a lot of positive responses. A lot of people will wonder what you're doing, and then after, you're done your meditation, or even sometimes while you're meditating, I've had people ask me, what the heck are you doing? And they don't usually mean it in a negative way. They have the best intentions. They're really just generally curious about what you're doing. And so that can open new doors for them. I mean, before I didn't know anything about meditation until someone told me. And then once someone told me, then that sparked my interest and I looked into it and I started doing it. So I got creative. I did it at the park. I did it, while certain times during the day, I'm not saying this is the safest thing to do, but if you're able to do it and you have a good, management within yourself, then, while you put the water on the stove to boil, while you're waiting for it to boil, and your children are playing or doing something, you can, go and sit. It may not be the best case scenario, but you can go somewhere and sit and quiet your mind, even if it's for 5 minutes, even if it's for 5 seconds. It is progress, and you're putting it out in the universe that this is something that you do on a regular basis, okay? So once you just start doing it, get really creative however you can, that will help. Now, another thing that I kind of struggled with, which I don't really like to use the word struggle, because as I've learned, struggling really comes from the thought of struggle, okay? When you think it's a struggle, then you're struggling, okay? But if you kind of just relax and realize how I, eventually get to the point to realize, then you can see that things kind of work out for you, okay? When you are passionate about it and when that's something you want to do and you put it out there, it will work out for you. So, but the other thing that I struggled with was traveling, getting out, finding alone time, okay? How do you do that when you're a parent and you have nobody? Well, thankfully, I did have family members who I reached out to, who I had barely spoken to at the time, who were able to take my 2 children for me so that I could travel, okay? A lot of us don't want to do this. A lot of us are scared of what people will say, what people will think. You feel bad because, I can only speak from a mother's perspective, but I know fathers have their own version of this, but I experience mother guilt. A lot of us experience mother guilt. We feel once we become a parent, specifically mothers I'm talking to right now, because like I said, I can only speak from my own experience. I happen to be a mother, but this of course applies to anyone who feels that it does. But for me, I experienced that I felt like if I wasn't with my children 24/7 right by their side, that I was doing something wrong, that I was neglecting them in some type of way, or, not able to be there to care for them, the right way, because as many mothers, feel we're the best for our children. I even, struggled with having other people, okay? Other people from my family was questioning what I was doing, was questioning whether I was a good parent or not, because I decided to do this for myself. But I am so glad that I did. I'm so glad that I left, okay, and traveled. I went across the country. I went all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast. And then I came back, okay? And yes, my children missed me and I missed them. But most importantly, I found things about myself, okay? I wasn't as stressed. I learned how to manage my stress properly. I met amazing people along the way, and I no longer felt alone, okay? I also was able to be by myself enough to where I learned what my passions were again. I learned that I had this craving to sing. I had this craving within me to paint and to dance and to do this, to make YouTube videos and speak to you guys about my experiences. So that's really important, and it's not impossible. And even if you have no one right now, absolutely no one, okay, I promise you, because I was in the same spot. I was like, I have no one. And people came out of nowhere. I had family members who I barely spoke to who just happened to come in my life at the perfect time, because I would, before it got to that, I would allow myself to fantasize, to visualize, and play around with the ideas of traveling. And it just happened, okay, beautifully and in divine timing. So if you are feeling like you are cooped up in the house. I know I even still get like that sometimes. As a parent, we do. We spend a lot of time in our home. It's not as easy to just go for a midnight walk, okay? When you have children, it's not as easy to go take a nice bike ride, okay? If you don't have the right equipment, you can't take your